to create shameless sex, you have to first identify where your shame is kind of coming from. And I do believe that it's generational. I mean, there's science behind that as well. So like my ancestors were Puritans. I had ancestors on the fucking Santa Maria or the Nina or the Pinta, whatever. Then my brother drove a Ford Pinto. So like, this is all coming full
weird.
Yeah.
More important even than the psychedelic experience, individually, we have to reclaim the primacy of direct experience. As people, the real universe is within your reach, always.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode. Today, this conversation, you are going to need to hold on to your seats because my guests, April Lampert and Amy Baldwin, hosts of the Shameless Sex podcast, are on the show and they are on fire. These ladies bring the energy. So much so that I had to wear my big bright shirt because I feel like we got to transition into this episode. I mean, from go, they hit the ground running. And my goodness, what a conversation. They did not hold back. If you think Kat Meyer in the episode before this was a fireball, these ladies, they are just like electric lightning. I don't even know. It was one of the most enjoyable conversations that I've ever had, especially the topic. And I mean, we just like got real about sex. So I really hope you enjoy it. You just get in there. We talk about everything. We talk about a lot of stuff anyway. There's certainly some stuff we didn't explore, but there's a lot of stuff that we did. And I hope that you enjoy it. I hope you leave some feedback, some comments on the YouTube thread. Hit us up on social media. Share this with people. Please, please, please. Your support, your word of mouth means so much. There's no better advertisement than word of mouth. So if you like this podcast, if you find it valuable, please share it. We got more great episodes coming, and I'm just super excited to share this one with you. Thank you, and see you on the other side of the mushroom. All right, everybody, welcome back. I am excited to be sharing this episode with you today. We've got Amy, how do you pronounce your last name, Amy?
Baldwin, like Alec Baldwin.
Just Baldwin.
No relation, though. Unfortunately.
And April Lampert here from the Shameless Sex podcast, and boy, oh boy, am I excited to have you all here. The way that you all talk about sex is the way that I want to hear it talked about. I want to talk about it in the same way. So I think that you're going to hopefully kind of pop my cherry in a
consensual way.
Yeah.
in a way, in a manner of speaking, conversationally. So first of all, let's just kind of share with our audience, how in the world did you all get into sexual health, sexual messaging, communicating all this out to the world?
Well, actually, Amy was the reason for me. This is April here.
Yeah.
No joke on that one. I studied environmental law and policy. I'm a Golden Gopher, graduate from the University of Minnesota, thinking I was going to be a lawyer and take big corporate polluters, to court, make them pay, which, I never did. And I met Amy. She was still studying human sexuality and psychology in San Francisco, and we were waitresses together. So I was studying for the LSATs, and she's younger than me, so she was still finishing her bachelor's degree. And she was telling me she was going to open up a sex shop with her mom in Santa Cruz. And I was like, ew, that's literally what I thought, because I'm from Wisconsin, and all the sex shops I ever drove by were truck stops with XXX billboards outside, no windows. Looked like you'd never come back out if you went in. So I was like, well, you have fun with that, Amy. That sounds great. And she's like, no. So it took about a year. They did all the planning. They got the funding. They got the beautiful building. And she's like, April, I think you should work there. I was like, Amy, I don't even have a vibrator. Like, I don't know. She's like, I think you're going to be good. I was like, I don't even know retail. I'm like, I'm a good shopper, but I know nothing about sex toys. She's like, well, I'm going to change that. And she gave me my very first vibrator. I think I was 24 at the time. And that changed my life. And so I started working at the sex shop. And the cool thing about it was that it was super sex positive. Amy was really keen on everyone. And I was the manager because I was like, I can't just be a normal employee. Amy, you got to give me a little bit more incentive. She's like, okay, you become manager. So I was the manager. And so she was keen on everybody getting sex positive education, using language that was inclusive. So instead of assuming someone presents as a woman, you don't say, hi, ma'am, you know, you're like, hi, how are you today? And then also watching the instructional videos. And sometimes we'd have porn parties, just like where porn would be playing in the background. So Amy was the reason. And then from there, I did start working on the manufacturing side. I worked with a company called Fun Factor as a director of sales for a bunch of years. And now I'm with a company I'm a partner in called Hot Octopus from London. And that's pretty much my elevator story about how I got it. So it's all her fault.
It's my fault. Yeah, you can blame me, everyone. Sorry, April's mom and grandma, and
Right? Yeah.
they're pretty used to it now.
Now
but
they are. Now they are.
for a
Now-
while, April's mom would say, when people
She's
ask
like,
what you did, would she say?
Oh, she sells cosmetics, like lotions. I was like, no, I don't. And now I'm a published author, and people ask my mom because my mom lives in Arkansas and very religious community, and people I like would be like, "What's your daughter's book called?" And my mom's like, Shameless sex. And I'm like, Mom, they all could probably use the book. Like, don't be shy.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yes. So I'll do that because April to explain some of the Amy origin story with my mom. So I grew up in Santa Cruz, California, a little bit more progressive than Wisconsin, but not everyone here was raised with so I was raised knowing that sex wasn't a shameful thing. Like, if you're going to have sex, it's not bad, it's not wrong. You don't have to wait till marriage. My family wasn't religious. And that's not the only reason why people receive that message, but that was just not the message. So before I was sexually active, age like 13, my mom said, if you ever become sexually active, you can come to me, you can get on birth control. So that in itself tells me it's not a bad thing. I'm not going to get in trouble. Did receive comprehensive sex education in the school system, but no one taught me about pleasure. Like, my mom wasn't, and because most parents aren't like, here's how masturbation is a great thing to explore and know your own body, but do it behind closed doors because consent, and it's your body that not everyone wants to see, or you get to choose who you share that with, and here's how some ways you can have orgasms. No one talks about that. So I had to learn all that stuff the hard way. And so while I knew sex wasn't shameful, I still didn't understand my body. I didn't understand orgasms. I didn't understand what I liked or how other bodies. Everything's super confusing. And when I was 18 or 19, I took a human sexuality class at community college, and I loved every second of it. First of all, because I was like, this is so interesting, and because I had so many questions about sex, and so I had decided if I was going to continue to go to school, I would go to school for something that I loved learning about. So it became human sexuality. And that's what I did. And since then, I've done a lot of different trainings to become, I'm not just a certified sex educator, which April is as well. I'm a sex and relationship coach. I've done trainings to extend my knowledge about holistic psychotherapy that doesn't even have to do with sex, because if I work with clients, that comes up, right? Like, what if they're in a process that isn't, that has to deal with childhood trauma? So, anyways,
You've had a lot of certifications, Somatica.
I liked that. And I chose that route over like getting a master's and PhD, because then I could tailor these things to Amy, right? And like what I want to do and offer, which kind of coincides with Shameless Sex in our book. Our stance very much is and was created upon this idea that we are all unique sexual beings, and we get to make our own rules and ideas for who we are as sexual beings while abiding by consent, of course. And that is really important to us. So when April and I, in 2017, we're already best friends. We're already, I also work for a company called Uber Lube, the best lube ever. If you've never tried it, we'll send you some, Eric, just so you know.
Sweet.
It's great. But in 2017, April and I guested on Sex with Emily, the #1 sex podcast in the United States, maybe the world. And
she still is. She's amazing.
And we had an amazing time. April's going through a divorce and like having sex with people all over the world. And and I was going through a heartbreak, and it was awesome. And so we decided to create Shameless Sex the podcast, and we release an episode every single week since June 2017. We just had our 7-year anniversary.
Oh, happy anniversary!
Yeah, we
Oh,
notice
wow.
that.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
We
We
should
didn't
probably do
notice
something about that.
High five, Chip. Yeah.
We did it 7 years. I haven't even had the 7-year itch.
Yeah.
Either.
Yeah, we don't have the 7-year itch. We love it.
It's just
and
that
then-
weird rash. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. And then just adding to that with Shameless Sex podcast, we wrote a book. We spent 2 years writing a book that is different than our podcast. Our podcast say, it's all about sex. It's free. So you can listen anywhere. We have all these guests like you do to talk about it's not just April and Amy. But the book we created because we had this passion for creating like a print / audio, map, compass, guide for people to really like figure out who they are as a sexual being, whether it's you're in a hard place in sex or you're like, things are great. How do I make them even better? And it's like a choose your own adventure book called Shameless Sex, the book. But it's more like, we call it choose your own pleasure path. So it's almost like, are you aware of choose your own adventure books, Eric?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Oh, yeah.
good. So it's like
some
that.
young people are like,
I'm 45. Yes,
Yeah.
I had blood
Yeah,
sugar.
you know.
yeah,
Yeah, like a
it's
20-year-old's like, what are you talking
Yeah,
about?
they're like, I don't get it. Like
Yeah.
Goosebumps? I'm
Yeah.
like, no, not like Goosebumps.
It's not like that, and it's nonfiction, everyone. So there's no abominable snowmans popping out, although that could be fun for the role play chapter. But anyways, so yeah, that's us in a nutshell. We're about to, I don't know when this is coming out, but embark on our live tour. We're doing so many things.
Yeah, there are a lot. Yeah, you got retreats
need
in
more Amy's
Tulum,
and
I
April's.
saw.
Yeah, retreats
Yeah.
too. Yeah, all the things.
I think we need to
That's
start
a-
cloning ourselves so we can get more shit done.
I know we do.
Oh.
I
Feel
Yeah.
that. I feel that. Oh man, this is so incredible. Y'all bring so much energy into this, and like as you're talking, Amy, I'm kind of like thinking about how this trajectory from shame to like embracing pleasure. Right? I grew up as a Catholic. My parents have fucking disowned me because my wife and I are openly polyamorous. It's like the shame and getting through that. Like I still struggle with it here in this conversation. I can feel little tinges of shame coming up, or that sensation around it. And I'm really curious, like what you're seeing, what you're hearing from people, like imagining from the span that you've been exploring this subject, you've seen some evolution in kind of the social perspectives around sexuality. I'm just really curious, like what it is that you have been seeing over this period of time, if that makes sense.
I think initially it was pushback. I just watched this documentary about Lollapalooza last night. And, Lollapalooza started by Jane's Addiction. And Perry, the lead singer, he said something that really resonated with me because it resonates with Shameless Sex. And he said, culture doesn't just create itself. Like, there's only certain people and movements that can create culture. And I was like, we have, I believe, created this culture of sex positivity, of conversations that aren't like, this is how you suck its dick. It's like not only about pleasure for a dude and heterosexual couples, or just for vulva owners, or just for young people, or just for white people. This is we call it a revolution, something that I feel like is slowly being more accepted. Even when we talk to more mainstream podcasters, more mainstream publications, but we still get pushback, right? Like when our book came out, we thought we'd get a lot more TV and radio opportunities, but because we have sex in the title, and this goes hand in hand with Instagram, and don't get me started on TikTok, and Facebook, because sex, our album cover for our podcast has us like naked, but with underwear on, with a strap, a black strap across it says Shameless Sex. And Instagram asked us to change that because it was too provocative. And I was like, this is the culture though, because we're not showing our pussies on OnlyFans. If you do that, good for you. We're not out there like selling our body. We're Shameless Sex because we want people to be able to have more pleasure. So it's a slow journey, but that's just like Jane's Addiction. It was a slow journey. It took a while. So I'm comparing us to Jane's.
Yeah, I
Addiction.
like that. I feel like we're like
he was
rock
drinking
stars.
a bottle of wine,
Yeah.
like kicking back, drinking out of the bottle. Yeah,
We're
I was
like
that's just a badass.
C-grade rock stars.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with April, and it's just like there are ways where I feel like we're moving forward in a really great direction, have been for a while, and it almost feels like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, whether it's politics or religion, but also like the social media thing that April's talking about. And there isn't this differentiation in a lot of areas there should be, right? What is education, which could still talk about pleasure, sexiness, polyamory to kink, all those things. What is, sex education to adults in the, podcast? And the podcast is a free space. Like that's why I love podcasting, right? But, like it's social media outlets.
It's like the last form of free speech. I really do feel like out there.
Yeah.
Please don't take it away, anyone.
Social media outlets to like mainstream media, isn't this differentiation, or even if it is, it's like it's still too provocative. So I think that we still have a long way to go to separate sex education, that pleasure focused sex education, from just sex, XXX, naked bodies, like
Fucking wild,
porn,
yeah.
all those things. Yeah.
Yeah, because even like you're talking about Instagram, I'm thinking like, there's so many Instagram models or nude stuff on Instagram, right?
And that's fine.
Yeah, and it's all good, right? I mean, we run into the same thing with psychedelics. I mean, Psilocybin says, being the title of this podcast, it's fucking shadow banned or whatever on all this stuff, and
Same.
and the irony is that it's the thing that's being touted as like the mental health panacea right now in a lot of ways, right? So it's so weird how the culture and all these things move in kind of a disjointed way. So what are like the social kind of edgy frontiers? I feel like BDSM right now is like, that's the thing I feel like I'm hearing more about in some of these platforms, and people cringe against the most or seem to think of it as like a pathology or whatnot. But I'm really curious, like, because like obviously like homosexuality used to be a disease, right? And so like as we move along these lines, like what are you seeing as far as like the edge of acceptability right now socially? Does that make sense?
Amy, do you think, for me, I think open relationships, like
non-monogamy.
E&M, like ethical non-monogamy or consensual
Which is
non-monogamy.
interesting because, and you
That's what I
probably
think.
know this, Eric, because you're out about being a non-monogamous person. But it's interesting. There was an article, was it the New Yorker? It wasn't the New York Times. I think it was the New Yorker. Like on the cover that was like, non-monogamy, something like kind of so in
The
right
New
now.
Yorker's more funny. Was it the New York Post?
Maybe it's something that, remember the one where Whoopi Goldberg
Satirical.
talked about
Oh,
it
yeah.
on
Yeah.
The View,
Oh, yeah.
and they had a whole conversation about it with, and all these women like, I would never do that. Like, I don't understand how is it, so I agree with April in that the non-monogamy conversation, I think, makes people who are not non-monogamous but partnered, not all of them, not everyone's uncomfortable, but it makes a lot of people super
And
uncomfortable.
pissed. Some people get pissed.
Because they probably had either experiences within their own relationships, or maybe their parents where there's cheating, affairs, all these things, or someone said, the grass is greener, or so it's hard for them to understand. To also, the way non-monogamy is talked about a lot is almost like it's a better way of being. Like if everyone was as cool and free as us non-monogamous people, and I say this, I'm also a non-monogamous person, have not always been that though, only for the last like couple years. So, and that could change. I could be monogamous tomorrow, but I just know like the message out there for a lot of people feels like if only you were more open-minded and free, even if that's not what the message is trying to say, I can see why it would feel that way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I can see
it's
how
less about kink to me. I don't know.
I feel the same.
Really?
I feel like kink and BDSM has sort of been
a little more accepted.
Yeah, and there's a lot more folks like because it's like such a spectrum with that. What people consider to be obviously BDSM and bondage, sated.
Are we gonna try to do the
Oh my
acronym
God.
right now? Okay. Bondage. We have dominance. We have
Submission.
sadomasochism and submission.
Sadomasochism.
say it right.
I was
Yeah.
like sadism, that's
Sadism,
not what I'm
masochism.
going with.
Yeah.
That was why I couldn't say it. Couldn't spit it out.
Yeah.
So kink and the spectrum of what people consider kinky. BDSM is sort of in this category of kink, but they can be so different, and it's all kind of intertwined. But I don't feel like there's as much pushback with that. People are either like into it somehow, curious about it and exploring it, but I don't feel like it's treated as such a like the ethical non-monogamy, at least with emails that we get after we have an episode about about
We get some trigger people.
being open. People are like, you're telling me to cheat on my
okay.
wife. We're like,
Yeah, we're not telling you to cheat on your wife. No, we're not telling you to do that.
It's kind of the opposite of that,
Yeah.
right? I mean that's what sent me down this path. Was like I saw so many men around me just fucking cheating on my dad, and like I felt compelled to have other partners. I mean, even since I was a kid. And finally, after 2 marriages, I was like, when I met my now wife, I was like, look, this is just the fucking way I am. I am wired this way. I cannot live a lie anymore. And I refuse to lie to you or anybody else about it. And I mean, it has been the most liberating for me to be able to, and it's been an 11-year process of still kind of accepting that this is who I am and the potential, backlash that comes from it and all that. But like, I think most importantly about this journey for me and her, and as I talk with people, that it's really just getting to like who you are, accepting yourself in the most authentic way you can, which sexuality is. It's like, it's first how we got here, and it's one of our most primal drives, so like it just feels really, really important to me that we continue to open up this conversation and explore it in like a disarming way, which is how I see you all talking about it. And one of the main reasons I wanted to have you on the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's our goal in our path, is just to disarming and inclusive, and also we don't know everything, we are aware of that. And we'll be honest with you all about that too. Like, we're no bullshit. When we meet people in person, they're like, "You're the same as you are on air." We're like, "Why wouldn't we?"
Well, I also want to speak to the shamelessness of sex, because in the ways that civilization has evolved over time, like the Greeks were super open sexually, right? What kind of crushed sexuality was the Romans? So sorry. Catholicism? So sorry. And that puritanical viewpoint of sex is for procreation only with your husband, or with your, just usually with your husband. The husbands can do whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah.
Let's face that. So it's, and I think that shame came from all of these like non-consensual acts when, the conquerors were conquering different lands and raping and pillaging and doing all of these things. And then I think there's just like this genetic DNA kind of ancestral shameless shame to create shameless sex. You have to first identify where your shame is kind of coming from, and I do believe that it's generational. I mean, there's science behind that as well. So like my ancestors were Puritans. I had ancestors on the fucking Santa Maria or the Nina or the Pinta, whatever. Then my brother drove a Ford Pinto, so I was like, "This is all coming full circle."
Yeah.
Weird universe. But I'm also Blackfoot Native American, so I have like this. I feel like very deep ingrained. Have you ever watched some of those historical shows that do talk about the kings and the queens and like the French, what the French were doing? Like French were just having fucking orgies in like the 1500s. Oh my God.
Really?
There's the one that just came out with Julianne Moore, and it's about how one of the kings, God
save the king. Sorry,
God save the king. He's a very, but he was totally gay, and everyone knew it. And his wife would pick out his partners, and so it was the queen. And, but it was like it's out right now. It's on Stars. I'm gonna remember. It's called like. Mary and George. That's what it's called. Mary and George. I remember.
Awesome.
Anyway, I'm just saying.
What's the opposite of hot wifing? That's like not hot wifing. That's like
I don't know.
Hot husbanding.
Buck suing. I don't know. So I just went off on a tangent because I thought it was something to share with the world and your listeners, because I do feel like we are starting to get through that puritanical roadblock that was so thick, at least for me growing up in the Midwest and all my, very Catholic parents.
Well, I mean, we feel like the time that we live in, that this is how it's always been. And so it's really helpful to bring in some perspectives from history that this is not how it's always been. It doesn't have to be this way. I do wonder, like, is there some point where kind of decadence and becomes like self-defeating? Like, can we give ourselves over too much to this idea of pleasure? And I've heard you explore some of this. Can you talk about that? Like finding that balance of pleasure just for pleasure's sake that doesn't detract from productivity, maybe.
Totally. And I think you said the word already. You said balance, right? You know, whenever, I'll speak for myself, I won't speak for all human beings. Whenever I am making choices that feel in balance, or I'm living in a way that's in balance, right? Not drinking too much wine, but I can drink a little bit of wine. You know, not getting, if I get a bad night's sleep, I make up for it the next day.
Not doing a hero dose of mushrooms and trying to go to work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. That is for its own orange time and space. And yeah, all these different areas. And so with sexuality, and there's the idea of like sex addiction or porn addiction, and that half of the sex ed world is like it's not a real thing. Half of the other sex ed world is. I personally stand by it can be for a lot of people, and that's just me. So I think if anyone is feeling like their hedonism and they're wild and they're like sexual, whatever, their flirtation, all these things is in any way out of balance, where it's really affecting your everyday life. And people know when you're like, okay, I want to masturbate 5 times a day, but I'm also like not going to my work meetings or going late. You know this, our justification systems are very strong.
But you have a nice glow when you show
exactly.
up.
So make me better. But like when there's things that are like also like kind of feeling sneaky, secretive, they're taking away from everyday relationships or productivity. The answer to that is just there it is. When you hit that point, that might be the too muchness. But otherwise, there really, I don't think there is. What do you think, Chip?
I think I think what you're saying, Amy, is totally correct. The balance of all things in life, right? And I can have too much sex with my partner and my pussy hurts for a few days and I gotta ice her and take a break, right? Even though maybe I'm horny the next day, I'm like, no, I can't. But you could do other things. So you can find hopefully that's not too much to say on your podcast.
It's a psilocybin podcast.
Okay.
Come on.
Well, I forgot to ask you, and I'm just going off.
I've fucked my cock sore before. There's no doubt.
Oh,
about it. It's
perfect.
all
Good. Yeah, we're good. Okay,
I'm in a safe place.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. So it's like, if you're finding I believe pleasure, obviously there's pleasure, the leisurely pleasure, right, that we think of in travel and Leisure Magazine or those kinds of like abundant luxury travel. But when we're talking about pleasure in the sexual form, I think there has to be a balance in terms of what's good for your body and what's good for you getting shit done in your life, being a parent, if you're a parent.
And good for everyone around you.
Yeah. Like if I was just busy wanking myself and didn't show up for this podcast, Amy would be like, girl, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like,
I know it's called
you?
shameless sex, but
you're like, girl, you got something to do. She's like, no, but this is shameless.
justification system. Love that thing.
No, we don't do that.
Yeah.
We get our shit done.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's important. It's important to note, and it's important to note that everybody has a different kind of gauge for that, right? Like sexuality is so often talked about as in this is what sex is for everybody, and that is something. I had an ex-wife that accused me of being a sex addict, and I still don't think that I am, because I got a lot of shit done, right? But yeah, I love sex, and so like the way that we again have more open discourse around this can help people feel more comfortable about who they are and what feels right for them.
But when it's consensual, let's be clear on that. And I know that the word is thrown around so much, consent, but it's so important because there's a lot of non-consensual acts of sexual violence that happen every
or there's
single
non-consensual
day.
acts that aren't even violent.
And even even just in relationships. So it's always important to have your yes. And if you're a maybe, then test the waters and then say no if you're not into it, right? So I always like to specify consent because it is talked about a lot and people are like eye-rolly about it. And I'm like, no, don't be eye-rolly.
That's
because
not a conversation to be eye-rolly about.
No, it's not. But I'm like, stop your eye-rolling. It's true. You need consent, okay?
Eye-rollers to consent are assholes.
I remember
Sorry.
our landlord, I won't say her name, I love her. She was talking about this old story about licking the stripper's pussy. And I look at her, I was like, did you have consent? She's like, shut up, April. She's a stripper. I was like, it does not matter. I'm like, did you ask her? She's like, well, she liked it. I was like, you were wasted. And I'm not going to judge you, but you don't ever do that again.
You sound like a dude right now.
Yeah.
Chip. Not you, her.
Yeah. So I just want, that's a quick story for you about the eye-rolling consent from a woman about another woman. So there you go.
I mean, this is something that I have been trying to talk about a little bit more on my platforms and in my communities. My wife brought to my awareness my lack of awareness around this gradient of consent. It's not just as simple as yes or no, right? And like having that nuanced conversation and really like taking the temperature step by step throughout the process, throughout conversations. It's something that men have, not even to say that we haven't been taught about it. We've been taught the opposite. We've been taught that you take what you want. And I think it feels like a really important topic for men particularly to engage with honestly, because when I had to be honest with myself and recognize that there had been times that, it wasn't consensual with my life. And man, like when you wake up to that, it's a real fucking hard thing to wake up to.
Yeah.
But that's the only way that we're going to be able to grow through it. And so like that's so much a part of what my work is about. And this show and our church is just trying to really get people to come to terms with their actions, really like modify behavior in a compassionate way, thinking about the entire situation. So, and another thing that has really blasted me open here lately, I had a mushroom trip that just like, this whole thing around women's menstrual cycles and the shame way men have been taught, in particular men, but men and women. Like you see women in the same conversations. I have yet to find a conversation that you all talk about that specifically.
It's
I'm
actually
sure
just about to be aired in like 2 or 3 weeks. Yeah.
Which one was
sweet.
Jordan.
Yeah.
We just it'll be it won't be
Oh.
it won't say like the title
there's no
won't say
mushrooms in
period
it.
sex.
Yeah.
No. But he's talking about the actual like
Oh, I
the
see.
shame around bleeding and all that stuff.
Sorry.
And,
Can you
yeah,
can
it'll
we talk
be
about it
aired.
now? Can you
Yeah,
give
totally. Yeah.
Where are your perspectives on this and what's kind of the reality? I hate to say reality, but like how do we talk about this more intelligently, more compassionately?
The reality for me would be, if you're going to be having sex with someone, like let's take it outside of period sex. You're going to have anal sex, right? You should be prepared for what if poop happens, because it's the butt and poop doesn't always happen. Anal can be very pleasurable. It can be very clean. But if you're going to go and play in something that might have the mud, you might get mud on you, right? And so if you're not down for that, either A, don't have anal sex, B, talk to your partner about what if this happens. Should we use like an enema?
Should we do
or
it in the shower?
should we do in the shower, put a black towel down? And I'm bringing it around anal sex because the same thing for period
So
sex.
mud might happen and blood might happen.
So if you're someone you love pussies, you love having sex with pussies, but you have somehow been taught that the menstruations, the periods, the bleedings are disgusting. And April and I both, I can speak for, we're not trying to convince people you should have period sex at all. We're not saying that. But if you're into pussies, just know that is part of the package deal. It has been since humans were on this earth. And so that is an opportunity to change your perspective. Actually ask like, why is this, like the idea of the red tent, hide all the women so they can go and bleed and like, oh, they're PMS now, they're batshit and crazy. And yes, emotions are real and hormones are real. But like there are so many other ways
but dudes menstruate, I swear.
and they have hormonal shifts too. But it's a little different. But I would say if you're a true pussy worshiper or lover or appreciator or admirer, then whether you don't have to have period sex, you don't have to munch a period box, you don't have to do any of that stuff. But
you will earn your red wings if you do so.
If you do, we will send you a certificate.
You get your red wings.
Email us at 555. But what I will, but it's just like let's be honest about the people, the natural process of the people that we are being intimate with, or about the type of sex we're having and what is a part of that, and then find ways to create safety and acceptance and being just realistic, as opposed to like. I had a partner once who said that he thought he's actually said this in this last episode, that period sex or a period in itself. That's why I like the term bleeding, because period's a little odd to me, but that it's death, that it's you could have got pregnant and now you're not. We weren't even trying to get pregnant, but it's like dead blood, and I don't want to touch
I just
it.
like gag at the effect. So my partner is a 56-year-old awesome human who is a father to 3 beautiful daughters that are all over the age of 19 now. Anyway, point is, I was looking on an app for my period tracking the other day. This was, and I said this on the other podcast too, but I just want to say it here because I thought it was genius. My partner, he's like, "What are you doing? You're not watching this show." He's like, "I've already seen this episode." I was like, "You don't understand what I'm doing right now because I have to have a better way to track my cycles." I'm like, "Why don't you read all of this and tell me which app you think is the best?" He's like, okay. So then he's doing it for like 45 minutes. I'm like, dude, he's like, well, I'm going between these two. And this one just seems like for teenagers. So I think you should go with this one. So I did. And I actually really like it. And I was like, see, babe, you just helped me because he's like, that's a lot of information. I was like, it really is. And you don't have to deal with that.
Yeah.
And now
Yeah.
you just help me. So it's like involving your partner.
Mhm.
If your partner, especially is a penis owner and doesn't bleed, that could be helpful in some way, whether it's, hey, go and get me some tampons, or hey,
That's what April calls them. It's like harpoons. But
yeah, because they harpoon, the pussy. Or like, here, do you want to learn about menstrual cups? Oh, did you know that you could put your menstrual blood in plants and it can actually help them grow more
Or
abundantly?
I think I'm about to bleed, and so this might be a really hard couple of days. Can you be a little more gentle with me, or maybe even like more adoring and sweet because it feels a little intense in here?
Yeah. Or can you give me a heating pad? I have cramps right now.
Yeah.
You know, my awesome wife, my awesome wife just did. I'm sure that she will not mind me sharing this because more women should do this. More men should be open to this. On our shared family Google calendar, she put her cycles with
Love it.
like emotional states kind of. And at first I was like, oh, and then I'm like, no, this is fucking good. I want to be
Yeah.
support. I want to know this.
Was
I
it
mean,
like with emojis, like the face emojis, or like what
No,
kind of?
Yeah.
Or is it
it's
like?
Like
just
what an
text.
angry
It's-
face. With the
I
devil
like
is
this
like-
idea. I should
like
maybe
the
do this
emojis.
with
I'm
my
gonna
partner.
suggest she'll hear this and we'll see. She'll get
I'm
that
gonna
tip.
use her.
Yeah.
I'm gonna use her example
brilliant.
because I love this. Because my partner's always like, "You're about to get your period." I'm like, "Shut the fuck up!"
But you put a little
And
emoji,
that's
and
when I'm
it's like it's just like the mind blown
Yeah.
one, or like
Then he'll
devil
know.
face.
He'll be like,
Yeah,
"Devil
I
face is
love it.
coming, bro."
Here's
I
how you
love
act.
it.
This is what I feel today, and here's how you should approach me.
Yeah, gently.
Well, I'd love to share that came out of this mushroom experience that will hopefully kind of lead into the next topic around sex, is that I had this fucked up trip where like it started out where this like giant being is telling me that everything that you've been told like biblically about God and all that, the opposite is true. And it went through like the Adam and Eve story. If you know like the Adam and Eve story, the snake is actually the one that told the truth and God is the one that lied. I didn't realize that until after this mushroom trip. And I go look and I'm like, oh fuck. Okay. What else? And then one of the biggest kind of moral dilemmas that has been in my life for a while is this thing around menstrual cycles, because it was, we're forced to believe that this is a dirty thing. This is the woman's uncleanliness. But we know that there are cultures that consider this sacred. And like you were saying, it's been used in fertility rites or in for fertilizing your plants and stuff. Like Courtney's
Real
telling me yeah, no, it's for real. And so like it had me thinking like, oh, so maybe the thing that's been shoved down our throats from all these religions is actually an attempt to keep us from our power.
Mhm.
And as I have embraced this as like not only not shameful, but like something to be celebrated, and this is only like in the last year that I've really been on that journey. It's like it's shifting my perspective. It's shifting the way that I feel like, I don't know, my engagement with a lot. I had this thing the other day where I'm sitting outside and all of a sudden everything was feminine. I never had this before, but everything was like
Welcome to the universe.
Yeah.
the gods. Yeah, it was the,
I'm giving you a digital high five
It's
for that.
fabulous
Yes,
out
it
here.
is. Yes,
no, it
that's
was
amazing.
I was just like, what is happening? And it just like the lens on everything changed. And so I guess what I'd love to use that as kind of a bridge into is talking about sex, from this perspective of the sacred sexuality, right?
Mhm.
So you all, I also want to get kind of circle back into some of the more not sacred, because another benefit that I've got, or another change in perspective that I've gotten from your show in particularly, is rethinking pornography. Because for quite a while now, I've just been like, pornography is all fucking bad. It's nothing but sex trafficking. It's nothing but abuse. And then I listened to some of your shows. I'm like, nothing is ever black and white. But before we get into that, let's talk about this kind of idea of sacred sexuality. Maybe I've been really interested in working on this kind of semen retention and Taoist transmutation and whatnot. So what are your perspectives on sex as a sacred act?
So I think, and I think April would agree that a lot of people get like a cringe thing when unless they're already
Including
on the
me.
sacred sexuality path or the psychedelic path. Maybe they're a little more open when we say sacred sexuality or tantra. If they're not in that world, they're like, ooh.
Because you
So
think of like these hippies, like your ex-boyfriend,
Oh, yeah.
who I don't like.
Right.
well, not everyone has a hippie ex-boyfriend.
No,
April
I
did.
know.
I did too. Yeah, but so for me, as a sexuality educator, who I used to say, if you asked me in my early 20s, about making love versus fucking, I say I fuck, I don't make love. And so the idea of tantra and this like slowness, and by the way, you can have fast, hard tantric sex, and you can also have kinky tantric sex. You can have sacred sex that is whips and chains or just slow eye gazing. Okay, everyone. Yes, urban
Oh,
tantra.
fuck yeah, she's been on our show.
She's amazing.
Amazing. Barbara Correllis.
Barbara Correllis.
Twice she's been on our show, right?
Yeah, whipped out that
She's
book.
fucking OG, the goat, man, right there.
So I had never experienced this feeling of, and I'd heard of it though, like, when I'm having sex with someone else, or even just eroticism, let's say, or intimacy, this feeling of a oneness, almost like the whole rest of you're in a vortex, and like, and it's whatever is happening, it's not just two separate bodies, and you're like one with the universe. Never I had heard about it, but I was like, I believe it's true, but
You
never
meant the
experienced it.
universe, right? You're
The
one with
universe, sorry, the universe. And I did finally experience it when I was in my like mid to late 20s, I think mid 20s. Anyways, I did experience it being intimate with someone. I was cheating on my partner at the time, and this other guy was cheating on his partner, but we were both like the catalysts for leaving these relationships that needed to be left. Anyways, I'm not advocating for cheating, everyone. But also because we're cheating, we justify why it was okay to be in a hotel room hooking up, and what we did was we kept clothes on. We did not kiss on the lips. We never touched genitals. We were just two bodies like grinding and like teasing and
she
like
came back to our room we were
breathing.
sharing, and I was like, "What happened to you? You look
I
like
was
you just
I was like
went through a
hi.
tornado."
Yeah,
Because the hair was all up.
I was, but I was the first time. It felt like it was just, there was no time. There was nothing else in the world, and that this was it. And this was not. I didn't love this person. We were not meant to be together.
You didn't sleep over because you came back. to
No.
our hotel room?
It was just a 3-hour thing, and I was like, this is what they're talking about. And so since then, I've spent more time learning about and practicing or like experiencing sacred sexuality, and I think psychedelics are a big part of that too. Like psychedelics are, as someone who was not raised on religion, through experiences with a lot of psychedelics such as like ayahuasca or 5-MeO DMT specifically, smoking totem medicine, I have felt being kind of universal oneness vortex thing, and so that's perfect that they go hand in hand. But I just want to say this to everyone: like, sacred sexuality doesn't have to be all the things you heard it was. And Barbara Correllis does a great job talking about it in her book. You can be sacredly sexual for 10 minutes with your partner, but you're not like oming and eye gazing. It's just really being very present, connected, and like making kind of almost like a ritual out of it. Like, this is like a celebration of you and us together.
And it's really getting out of your head, which sometimes is the hardest place to get out of. Humans, we are thought processors, and that's what we do. We think, right? We think. And sometimes, especially if you're an analytical person like me, it's really difficult to get into that space of this oneness. It takes a lot. And mushrooms have helped, as well as ketamine for me, and ayahuasca you're not really supposed to, but I have had sex after drinking that plant medicine, and it was
Ever do that.
I talked to my shaman about it, and I don't feel bad about that. And it was amazing, and I have now ridden myself of the U factor with the term sacred sexuality or tantric sex, because I used to just be like, oh my God, and that's part of my growth process with releasing my judgment and my preconceived notions about these things, because I'm a very open-minded person, but for some reason, and I'm like, so I'll ask myself, like, what is you about that, April? Because I don't know about it, because I've never had that. This is me before talking to myself. And then once I have experienced it, I'm like, oh, I get it. And I'm not what I boxed all that I thought were having tantric sex into, I'm not that person and I can have that too. So even if you
You
don't
like
have
the dirty, kinky version of that.
yeah, I do. And I've also had really like lovemaking, like really sensual experiences that I would have considered afterward tantric, but that I wouldn't have considered before. And if I was with my partner and he was like, "Do you want to have tantric sex?" Like
Oh, God.
he would never say that, but I'm
Yeah.
saying I would be like, "Fuck no, get the no," you know.
A drive-by ceremony, as I like to call
Yeah,
it.
like-
Oh, drive-by. Yeah, where they're like, "Oh, hi, nice to see you. Let's eye gaze for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I didn't even ask you if you want to, but we're gonna do it."
And I hooked up with some dudes like that for a minute when I was single, and I was like, "This is so uncomfortable."
Oh, God.
I'm like, "Can we just like do it doggy so I don't have to fucking look at you right now?"
That's how you deal with a drive-by ceremony, doggy style.
Oh, shit.
That's good.
Yeah, I mean,
Find
all the
solutions
fucking
when you need to.
guru stuff. I'm like the most unceremonial. Like all of the guru bullshit and all that
Oh, yeah.
in the psychedelic culture and the sexual culture. It's just like, not only is it a red flag, it's like that's a fucking wrong street. You know,
Yeah.
don't even go down that shit. So, but there is something really powerful here. For me, it's been like understanding my body as like primarily, or at least in large part, as an energetic kind of experience rather than the physical experience. And I've started to understand the proscriptions around sexuality within the psychedelic space, not as any kind of, like, I used to think this is like moral, ethical thing, but it has more to do with your energy. Like Mantak Chia, y'all probably heard of Mantak Chia, I don't know,
Yeah.
but like his teachings around building that chi and that bioelectromagnetic force through internalizing orgasms has changed my life. And
Can I
it's
ask you
amazing.
I wanted to ask you a question. You go
about that?
first, and I have a question after her. Sorry.
Because I get that, because he's big on like semen retention, and I think his co-author actually lives in Santa Cruz. And anyways, and I've actually had a client before who was only in his early 20s, and he read that book, and it kind of fucked him up mentally, because he would feel shame ejaculating. And so it's like this, and I'm not saying Mantak Chia fucked him up, but this,
Yeah.
again, it's all balance, right? Like, just because you read one book or you talk to one educator, one whatever master, doesn't mean that is true for you. I don't know Mantak Chia, and I have read that book, but I'm curious, like, for you, with the semen retention, like, what are the positives of what it's doing for you? I'm not anti-semen retention either, but I'm the positives. And then when you actually do ejaculate, do you feel that, like, oh no, I'm a lesser being, or I shouldn't do this?
Or do
No.
you
I mean,
feel like it's
I-
bigger, but bolder, wider ejaculations after you
Yeah, your
hold it to?
orgasm's
All those
badass
things.
when you do.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck yeah. No, early on, because of my Catholic upbringing, I did have that kind of remnants of shame when I would blow low and like, oh, that's not what I was supposed to do. But one of the things that he specifically says is like one of the most important things is when you do lose it, do not feel guilty or shameful about it. It's all good. And that shame and that guilt will infuse more kind of illness into you than losing the load could, right? So I very much appreciated that. I mean, the benefit that I get from it, though, is aside from like getting an erection when the wind blows, like I never have to worry about that. It's like I'm as horny as a 12-year-old boy, which is fucking awesome. Is that I just have a ton of energy and focus, and I can feel, because of mushrooms, like I've been able to really get more sensitive to my field. And so like when I'm doing my qigong or whatever, like the energy between my hands will just heat up so quick and so strong. And so I know that it's assisting in my vitality, and at the same time I have to balance it, because like I just become so fucking horny that like it's just too much. So like
you need to go get a wing session
one of your
right
partners
now.
could bend over
Yeah.
and then you just ejaculate in your pants. You're like,
That
damn it.
it's kind
No.
of, yeah, it's like,
It's just the way
But
that
is
is.
this why how
it's-
horny you
it's
are, though? You're gaining control, though, right? It's like the control aspect of you get the choice of when you ejaculate, and that creates this vitality and maybe also enhances your sex life in a lot of ways. And then when you actually do ejaculate, you're being intentional about it, as opposed to like this thing that just happens.
Yeah.
yes,
Which is-
I mean,
that's great.
and it's very real, like the drain that you feel if you like blow a load, 3 days in a row or every 3 days or something, and so that's been really powerful, and like something that I have not ever spoken about publicly, but it has become so fucking obvious and prevalent, and I'm starting to like have tangible examples that I can share and people see and they're like, what the fuck? And Mantak Chia talks about this, is that actually increases your potential for clairvoyancy or psychic kind of phenomena. It's a very
Is this just with penis owners?
No,
Or
no.
Okay.
No.
Damn it. I guess that's just
Women are the
maybe
fucking most powerful. Women are incredibly so much.
We're
so
the
much more
intuitive
powerful
I
wicked,
like
than men.
hate. I hate
So much
edging.
more
I just want to
powerful
get
than
it out. I'm always like, let me.
You don't
have
like
the orgasm.
edging?
I
Well,
like
but it's-
not when I'm masturbating by
Oh.
myself. In a sexual experience with a partner, I don't mind edging, but like when I'm masturbating, I'm like, no. It's like I don't know why. I try to, and I'm just like, no, I just need a good.
But it goes beyond edging. It goes, at least in my understanding and how I've been working with this, is that like edging is one thing. It like internalizing that orgasm is a very different thing.
You're
So
just
you
not
feel it
ejaculating.
just,
You're
like,
you're still
blow
feeling
through
the
you.
explosive orgasm. So like with
Yeah.
with edging is more so like you actually are not getting the orgasm. You're edging close to it.
Right.
But for women it is a lot easier to separate, orgasm from ejaculation. Like,
Mhm.
that's
Yeah.
but for men, they, their bodies used to naturally be in that state when they were kids, right? Like you actually physically did not have the ability to ejaculate, but young, children, boys
And
can
still can get erections.
and have orgasms.
have
And then they
orgasms,
went
for
hand
sure.
in hand. And so you're just separating the two. And then
Yeah.
by doing that also it makes it so you have all this energy in space to have even more powerful orgasms, which I can understand why you feel more like, intuitive,
So
clairvoyant.
this
and stuff.
doesn't go in. I just want to be clear because it's not being celibate. Because like Lenny Kravitz has been
Oh, no.
celibate for fucking 7
Yeah,
years,
I
and I'm
saw
like,
that.
what?
Like,
And he's
what?
like the sexiest
You're
motherfucker,
such
and
a
I was like,
good-looking guy. You're
oh my!
like,
And he's like beautiful, and I think
Yeah.
he's vegan too, which I'm like, I don't mind vegans, but I'm like.
Celibate vegans.
Celibate.
Mm.
I was like, Lenny, like I guess all you have time for is to fucking work out and look amazing and like
fuck that.
have
Yeah,
like, an
no.
amazing line at CB2. 'cause
No.
I love his smile. Anyway, I had a question for you, Eric, about sex and psilocybin, specifically like doing like I'm gonna say a hero dose of mushrooms. Can you have sex? I have trouble dropping into a sexual experience when I do a lot of psilocybin.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So is it the same for you? I just wanted to know if you've ever had a sexual experience, or I get so in my head, I'm like, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? How do I do it? How do I'm not going to orgasm. This is so weird. Are there trees growing over there? I see this tree and a bird is just, it's like that for me. And I'm like, nope.
Yeah.
Look at
Yeah.
our living
No,
room,
it's,
there's no trees.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, afterwards, like after the come down, I've had some amazing sex. But like when I've tried to have sex on a big dose, I'm like, you want me to do what with what? Like that's no fucking way, right? LSD. Courtney and I almost had sex on the beach on LSD. We had to like stop ourselves. It's like fuck. But yeah, no, it's not been conducive for sex. There's a guy I recently came across who takes psilocybin and intentionally watches porn to try to like understand the energetics of it. I'm just like, oh my god, I can't even imagine. I can't even look
That's
at the fucking
ballsy.
phone on mushrooms. Much less go watch some porn.
I mean,
So-
I like sometimes on mushrooms, I'm like, I don't like all the clothes I'm wearing seem weird. Like, I'm like, why
Yeah.
am I wearing these clothes? And then I'm like, but I can't be naked, but I'm in my house. So maybe I can be naked, but then what am I going
And
to
look, there's
wear?
a tree in the living room.
And then I'm like, this tree is growing. I can see it growing right
telling
now.
me to get
And then if there's a show on or something, my partner will just put a show on. I'm like, what are you watching? This is all fake. And then I go through these very interesting cycles.
Well, it's
Probably
like,
not time to fuck, just saying.
the neuroscience tells us, about this prefrontal cortex and the limited filtration there and all this information coming in. And when you think about sex, like you already talking about how present, the more present we are in sex, then like the more potent that sex is. And so if we're receiving a fucking trillion bytes of information because we took 5 grams of mushrooms, then like it's gonna be really hard for us to focus on and be present for all that stuff. But the most ironic thing for me around the semen retention, I'll leave it at this and we can talk about porn, is that my male friends or penis having friends, when I talk to them about this, pretty much every single one has been like, that's the craziest, dumbest fucking thing. Why would I not want to come? And I'm like, well, if you don't want to have like 5 orgasms in a row and fuck for 3 hours straight, okay. But so it's like, it's just so interesting how like we have, men in particular, I think have put such a goal-centered experience, right? Like I gotta bust a nut. And it's just like, dude, if I don't come or ejaculate, then like, even my wife now or partners that we've had like can feel that, and it just like it generates a desire among everybody. So anyway, it's
My
great stuff
partner
for
has
me.
actually, I just want to speak to that because he heard about it from some of his friends, and my partner looks like a total meathead, but he's like the deepest, like most like kind of, he has like a lot of intention. He's come a long way. Like I think like through his journey of like with psychedelics, especially. And his daughters will eat psychedelics, specifically his middle one, because it's helped her. Just a tiny bit of psilocybin will help her with her anxiety. And she's actually off of all anti-anxiety medications
Nice.
because of psilocybin. And he's really like opened the doorway for them as adults to this world. But he started the semen retention thing, hearing about it from his friends, and has shared with other friends. And he does say, like, when he holds his orgasm, his ejaculation, that after like the third or fourth time he has done that, the next time I don't count for him, and I never get like why didn't you come? Because that's not what we all need to do. Remember that if your partner
goals,
is
y'all.
doing semen retention, it's all about the journey. It's not about the destination. But he does speak to the fact that he'll sometimes have whole body orgasms that are almost like deeper. He hasn't talked about this other piece. Maybe I just haven't asked him about this, the clairvoyance and deeper connection with like the world around him. But I will maybe ask if he wants to retain his semen the next few days and see if that does
if
happen.
you say retain his semen, like that's so sexy when you say it that way. Yeah, will you hold your jizz? And I just want to add just what you were saying, Eric, about retaining your semen.
Retain your semen now. Thank you.
Semen demon. It's just so like I won't speak. I'm not. My guess is that this applies to a lot of those men that you're speaking to. They're uncomfortable because one, they don't know a lot about it, and or two, they're like, I can't do that, or it sounds like a lot, or it sounds like a lot of work, right? Like, you know, the pride that has been pushed into all humans, but especially men, masculine men with penises who fuck women, and they come, and only good sex always involves everyone having an orgasm, and if you don't, it's bad sex. You're not good in bed. You can last X amount of time. That's all bullshit, everyone. But you know, you just say that, and for them to be like, you know, you're crazy. Why would you want to do that? I don't get that. When people say that about certain things that we talk about, I'm like, oh yeah, you either just are really uncomfortable because you don't understand, or you're afraid because you doubt yourself. And I'm not even telling you have to do it. I'm just telling you about a thing.
Yeah.
So it makes sense.
Yeah, no, excuse me. I do get it on a level, and then on the same level, I'm just like, why the fuck wouldn't you want, like, better orgasms? But anyway,
seriously, that's how we feel about sex toys over here. We're like, people are like anti-sex toys. We're like,
We're like, do you own a car?
Yeah,
because you could walk everywhere too.
Yeah, come on, let's be honest. Let's
yeah,
be real.
no, there's so much there. That's so true.
2024, y'all.
Yeah, come on.
So talk to me about porn. Talk to my audience about porn, because I've spent a fair amount of time on this podcast kind of talking about the harms of porn. And I think there still is potential harm to come from porn, and it's not a completely ethical industry. But like, what are some of your guests? I've heard some pretty interesting shares from your guests, and I'd just like to hear your perspectives on pornography, healthy versus unhealthy.
Well, we've had quite a few directors, and we've had a couple of actors as well on the show. And what I've learned, especially, I just went through a sex ed certification that was diving deep into this exact subject. And what I learned from that experience, not that I didn't know that before, but to share with everyone from this very professional viewpoint, just being mindful of the porn that you're consuming is going to be the most ethical way to consume the porn. Now, porn is not all bad, right? Now, if you're supporting what you're saying, like, oh, these people are being human trafficked, you're watching things that you're getting for free that might not be paying the actors. And it's not even about paying the actors. If they're not consenting to this, they're doing it because they got shot up with some fucking heroin, and now they're in like some what do they call, like an opium den. I'm going dark here, but I'm just saying, people, like, stranger things have happened, and these kinds of things do happen. So when you are consuming porn, pay for your porn. It doesn't even have to be expensive. Now, if you're like, oh, I don't want my partner to see that I'm looking at this, or my kid looks at my phone, I don't want my kid to see that I watch porn. There are ways that you can have, like, hidden screens on incognito on Google Chrome, or private browsing and then delete. you know, and then I mean, obviously if you like commit a murder, the police can see what you fucking saw eventually, but let's not go there. You're not going to do that. Okay. I watch a lot of crime shows.
Yeah,
They can
she
track anything. You can encrypt your device. You can get a VPN code, and then all of your codes won't be laid out. So from a tech side, if you do want to, you know, don't watch porn on your work laptop if you don't want to be found out, especially if you're in tech, but you can consume porn ethically, and not all porn is bad. We say it's not for education. Amy and I have spoken about this time and time and time and time.
Porn is kind of why we have jobs, by the way, because we're
is.
undoing a lot of the misconceptions and harm of porn in terms of how people should be as sexual beings.
But the last piece, because I do want Amy to share, that I learned from Dr. David Lay. Dr. David Lay, he like testifies about a lot of things in court. He helps pass like legislation. He's a genius. He's been on our show before, but specifically about pornography, he talks about how it actually can help people with their sex lives, because I and Amy and I always thought that, oh, maybe that we want like not we but people would look at someone's pussy on some kind of film they watch that's pornographic, and they're like, I want that pussy, or oh, my cock has to be 12 inches long because that's what all the porn stars have.
Porn is more we used to think it was more problematic because it was not helping with body acceptance.
Yeah, but the research actually shows, and Dr. Lay shared that with us, his name is Dr. Lay, that you know this research shows that it actually can help enhance people's sex lives when consumed in moderation and in balance, and ethical porn is what to consume. So that's the last piece I wanted to share. Now I know Amy has.
Yeah, and what she says, so ethical porn, people are like, you know, what the fuck does that mean? And so there are all kinds of, and I would say just like female directors, and you know, is a good way to go. You can look it up, but Erica Lust is.
I saw her on your show. Yeah.
Yeah,
Bree
she's just
Mills.
on her show. Yeah, Bree Mills, who has kind of like the Netflix of porn, and so
Called Adult Time.
Adult Time, I think. Yeah,
I think so. Okay.
Yeah, and so it's kind of like these avenues, because it's not ethical to get free porn. Why does everyone think we should get music and porn for free? I'm not sure. People are putting in their time and energy to create that. Those are artists, everyone. So pay for their time, and then go and looking up these avenues where you can see that it's ethical. And you know, if you're lost and confused, just stick with Erica Lust or Bree Mills, or you know, go to someone's OnlyFans and pay them. And you know, like there are ways, and again, like April said, in balance too. But so the part of the way that our careers kind of to undo the harms of porn is that, like April said, the sex education is the number one sex educator, but it never should have been, right? It's not the way to learn how to do a threesome, how to do anal, how to suck a cock or lick a pussy, or all the other things. And that's one reason why we have jobs, but also because, you know, porn shows this kind of mainstream way of having sex, mostly between straight people. And then you have sex, and it usually is pound, 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 right? They don't do all like the warm up, the boundary setting, and adding lots of lube and communication.
I don't know what porn you're watching. Mine does.
Yes, your porn does, but they don't. Yeah.
I'm just-
Yours shows that.
I don't watch it. I
That's
fast
awesome.
forward.
But so then you fast forward, but so then people are trying to have that sex, and they're like, why doesn't my body work that way?
Mhm.
I must be me, or why doesn't his body or her body work the way? They must be broken. Something wrong with them. So like there's this, like, porn is entertainment, and there is, like April said, a balanced and ethical way to consume it that can be really healthy and wonderful for you. And then there is a way to utilize it as something that is actually more like harmful within your world and the outside world, and they're very different from each other.
I finally watched porn for the first time with my partner not too long ago, because I was always closeted about watching porn, which was interesting because I'm in this world. And he finally was like, why don't you ever want to watch porn with me? I was like, that's like my thing. I don't know. It's like I just do it because I feel like I'm doing something
Private
bad.
time. Oh,
It was
naughty.
like, because I like the naughtiness of it, which is ridiculous, but it's true. And it stems from when I was little. When I found out porn, gangbang porn on my mom's VHS tape that was labeled Days of Our Lives. And I thought I could find a spot to record something I want to record. And I was fast forwarding, and boom. Probably shouldn't have seen that when I was 8 years old, but I did. And I was like, so then every time my mom would leave at work, I would like find the exact spot and watch the gangbang and then hunt my teddy bear. And I was like, this is amazing. And then the tape disappeared, and then I would like go through all the VHS tapes like that. I wasn't the rated R ones and try to find like scenes.
Her mom had no idea about this until we started the podcast, and it's probably in our
And
book.
also,
too.
it is in the book, and she's like, I can't believe that, April. I was wondering why. And she's like, I got that tape from the neighbor. I was like, well, then.
It wasn't mine. It just fell into my VCR. It was an accident.
I don't know, Mom. This is true. So it was like this dirty little secret
Immaculate
for me.
conception of porn in the VCR.
And so I finally watched porn with my partner. It was hot, and I was like, "This is hot." It's a little awkward because I was like getting like giggly, like awkward, like
The sex
teenage
is awkward,
vibes.
though. That's normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was the porn that I went to, like my go-to.
Which is Taxi Cab?
No, that was
Oh, sorry.
that was ages ago.
Step parent.
Step parent. No, specifically stepdad and stepdaughter.
They're all actors, everyone.
They're
She does
all
not actually
actors.
want to have
All
sex with her
acting,
stepdad.
please. All
Everyone.
acting.
Yeah.
I'm repulsed by my stepfather. Would never all of them.
Which is probably why you like this porn.
Exactly. There you go.
So would you all say, I kind of caught this, would you say across the board, all of the free porn sites, leave those alone? There's not, people are not being paid. They're not ethical.
Not
Okay.
necessarily. There are
Okay.
there are because we know some of the like in our industry. I have friends at least, and I know Amy knows some of them, but I have friends that have had porn companies, and I do know we talked to some of the big stars, like those big stars that are being paid. Brazzers, I know that, and you can find clips on YouPorn and different sites like that. They tend to be able to pay and have their actors, but if you're watching like amateur porn on those sites, and they'll show clips and sometimes long clips, and you have to watch ads and things. But some of them, and there's other ones that I do know, and I can't think of all the names right now because there's a lot coming to me that some of them do, but you have to do research and
The whole
Right.
reason why the clips should be available, just like let's take porn out of it. You know, you see it a movie trailer for 2 minutes, right? Is to get you to go pay for the thing that people
Right.
put all this time and energy for. So even with those, like with Brazzers and all these other things, like all those little second things are there not so that you can just consume it entirely for free. They're not just free gifts for you, like, you know, blessings, have fun with that. Ultimately, it's go find something, use those clips freely to see what you like, then go find that person, that film, that director, and pay the money for it just like you do with the movies.
Makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a convoluted topic, and I just enjoy exploring it. Amy, I'm really curious for you, what kind of like this being your world for so long, like, do you still come up against some growth edges here? Like, what's new for you? What's like where now? I'm scared to ask. Like, what's taboo for you at this point?
Oh, taboo? Oh,
yeah.
that's interesting. Yeah.
What's the edge? Yeah, where are you finding yourself kind of pushing your comfort zone and all this?
I tried golden showers once before, but I was just the giver, not the receiver. And
You weren't into it.
I didn't turn me off, but didn't turn me on. So for me, a lot of I have this opening for like, not like I'll try everything once, but I'm open to at least learning about everything, and then I can decide if I'll try it. And then there's some things that I'm like, you know, like April's talking about the yes, no, maybe. I'll have a maybe too, and then, you know, I'll try it. And, you know, this is the case with the golden showers thing. This is a lover
You're
I
not
had for a couple
into
months.
other women, like hooking up with other
No,
women.
but I'll try, but I'll still like push those edges, right? I'll still like, oh, you know, this other very straight woman, I'm more subby, and so I was like, she's a dom and I'm a sub, maybe, and she's hot, maybe, and she's gonna crush me, maybe this is like
And then every
my
time
girl.
you're like,
And like it feels like I'm making out with a dude I'm not into. So I'm, you know, identify as, you know, painfully straight, and, you know, I'm a kinky person, but not 24/7 kinky. I'm a sub who's also a bratty sub, but I don't live those all the time, and I know that these are labels right now, but they will always change. Right now, like I said, I'm non-monogamous. That could change tomorrow. Yes, there are certain things that are on my no list that I have heard of and I won't try, like poop play. No thanks. I'm cool in that one.
called scat play, Amy.
Yeah, scat play. I'm good. And so, but hearing about it, like there's basically, I don't think there's anything I could hear about consensual sex that would weird me out at all. Now, if it was unconsensual, non-consensual sex, are you talking about like with humans or animals? That's different. That will make me,
pedophilia,
Yeah.
hebephilia,
bestiality,
bestiality.
things
Those are
like
all
that.
non-consensual.
That will be very
sexual acts.
different. But when it comes to consensual sex, I might be like, whoa, that's very interesting. I had a client once who had a fetish for farting and burping. I've had feeder clients who get turned on by feeding their lovers to get them all kind of like fattened up, and it's these are other fetishes. And
People into like the piercing play where they get hanged
Yeah.
by their backs.
I don't like watching that because I have a weird thing with piercing flesh, but I can hear and learn about it and just stay open to that. So I guess for me that's it. It's like, and I think that could work for most people, right? Just because I hear or learn something and I'm a no to it, or I'm like, whoa, it's not my thing, doesn't mean that I have to shame anyone else. Or if I feel disgust, then that's like a way to check in. Like I don't feel disgust with the piercing thing, but flesh hanging by hooks does give me EBGBs, but I can hear about it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to watch a live performance, and I'm not going to shame anyone about it.
Yeah, I love that. And it's consensuality and like just being open to talking about whatever. And which you brought up something that I have been kind of interested in butting up against here lately. I got a ton of, gay, bi friends, trans, whatnot. And like, it's for the first time in my life, I feel like I have had moments where I'm like, am I wrong in being straight? Like you said, painfully straight. And I feel like that's where I find myself now. It's like, yeah, I mean, like I really keep checking this. And like, I really think that I'm like, if there's a percentage, it's like a 0.01%. I don't know, but like, fuck, I just am not into dudes, and like finding that
Nothing wrong with
okay.
it. Yeah.
I know, but it's like I'm trying. Like it's so weird that I'm now like trying to be like okay with myself in that regard. It's just interesting to me.
I use the term painfully, and I got that from another friend of mine who was raised with like lesbian moms, the most progressive upbringing.
You've used that for a long time.
And even she calls herself painfully straight because she's like, let's be honest. If I was like fully open to all genders, there'd be a lot more opportunity out there. It'd be fucking awesome. But but like that's not me. And so I feel that same way. And I get what you're saying. It kind of goes with the non-monogamy thing, right? Like there's a hierarchy. If we're really open-minded people,
Right.
we'll all be this way. We'll be pansexual. We'll be non-monogamous. We'll be tantric. That's bullshit. We are who we are. And some people are just like, super duper straight. Some are like have a little more like hetero flexibility. Some are it's just like the variations of sexuality. That's just normal.
Fluid.
But there is value in continuing to question and explore, because so much of it is social conditioning, and to really try to understand what is your most authentic self. Again, I feel like it's one of the greatest benefits of really diving into our sexuality.
Yeah. And that's not like not feeling like you need to explore because people shamed you though, or that you read the New York Post or whatever, or, you heard someone talk about how, bisexual, everyone should be bisexual, or all women should be bisexual, or a real man will suck a dick. That's not where do you explore from.
I just had a conversation with some intelligent dudes last week, and older dudes.
I'm sorry, I've never heard anyone ever say real man will suck a dick. I'm sorry.
A real man.
So this is what it's in context to this. They're like,
Go ahead.
so if you like anal sex, even if it's with a woman, that means that I'm slightly gay, right?
Oh
And I was
God,
like,
they're still saying that.
yes. I was like, no. They're like, well, but why would? And they were speaking about someone I didn't even know. They're like, well, this guy he only was into anal sex, so that has to mean he's gay. I was like, no,
It's just
a
a hole, everyone.
I'm
It's
like-
just a hole.
I'm like, look, to be honest, he could have a small dick and it might feel better because some of the vaginas he's fucking are maybe too big
or
for
maybe he's
his.
got an ass fetish.
But this is perspective I gave them, and they were like, oh, I didn't think of that. I was like, there you go. You're welcome.
Dude, the thought that like your actions determine your orientation is just so old school. Everyone, let's move beyond that one. I've done a lot of things that would, you'd be like, well, who is she now? But like, it's not about that. It's up to us, and it's the people that we're into, right? We get to determine our orientation based on who we're into, not the things that we're doing.
Which is why these conversations are so important. Which is why I like having those conversations. That sometimes I'm like, you idiot, but I'm like, but if I start getting angry at
She
them,
doesn't actually say that.
I never do, but I'm like, oh, and I'm like, okay. I'm like, let's just listen here, kids that are 55 and 57 years old. I'm like, this is not true.
Yeah.
And let's talk about this because you have children. you have boys, I'm like, let's not say that they're gay. And they're like, oh my God, I hope my son's not gay. I'm like, what? I'm like, I prayed for a gay bee. If I ever had a kid, I was like, I want a gay bee.
Please give me a gay bee.
I want a gay bee so bad. I'm pretty sure my dog is a gay bee.
You're right. No, my dog's the gay bee.
Okay. But that's why these conversations are important. That's what I was getting to, and having them in a way that people aren't going to feel shamed for having these assumptions and having these aha moments where like, oh yeah, I never thought of
And
this.
I just want to blow your listeners' minds for a second. Maybe this won't, but just about like real men suck dick. And I don't actually believe that, but I have to say, I saw my partner getting his dick sucked by another man who was a bi man, but that man was sucking it real good, and that was fucking hot. The end. My partner is pretty straight.
I have thought about it. I guess you never know until you're in the situation, but even that I feel like would be a push for me. But I don't, who knows? Anyway, there's something that you said that I wanted to rip off of, but the visual of that just
I knew it was going to do things to the brain.
Great.
Yeah.
That's
Again,
great.
really hot.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, that's the reason that I have like explored this is because like I wanted to make sure that like I want my wife to have everything that she wants, really, and she hasn't like expressed that that's what she wants, but like I don't know if she would be willing to acknowledge that if I wasn't willing to entertain it in the first place, So anyway, just taking the shame out of these conversations because you can't, like you said, you can't have an aha moment if you're like buried in shame. So important.
Or being shamed for having these thoughts and then expressing them to people that are sex educators. And us being like, oh my God, you're an idiot. I can't say that. I'm like, oh no, let's listen here.
In her mind, she's like, Stimpy.
But I'm like, oh my God. And then I'm like, do you know about your prostate? And they're like, what? I'm like, doesn't make you gay. It's going to help you. I promise.
And just adding to that with with your shame, it's also learning though. You're right. Education, putting yourself in environments or listening to things or reading books that are outside of your norm, your everyday, whatever, whether it's psilocybin or sex, right? And it doesn't mean that by doing that, you have to be into everything and do everything, but it is expanding your mind to learn more about yourself, for maybe potential to try other things and have more aliveness, but also to have more love and acceptance for other people that are different from you.
Absolutely.
Like sex and drugs right here, right? All we need is some rock and roll.
Lenny Kravitz.
You're at least B grade rock stars right at this point.
Yes.
At least.
B minus.
B minus.
Yeah.
We'll take it. Hey, I'm taking a B plus, Amy. I'm taking a B fucking plus. I love that. B's got degrees for me, baby.
B plus is one of the best known cubensis strains of psilocybin. So there's that anyway.
Oh,
All right, the last question. I didn't prep y'all for this. I'm sorry, but I'm sure you guys thought that.
Is it rapid fire, fuck?
No.
God.
It is just simply, what does psilocybin say to you?
Ooh, right now today. So what does psilocybin say?
Right now.
Psilocybin says to me and has said to me for a number of years now to only take me. This is psilocybin speaking. Hi, I'm psilocybin. Hi, Amy. Here's what I want to tell you. Only take me during the daytime, in places in nature when you feel really safe and connected to the people that you are around. And don't take me in places that are in confined spaces with a lot of chaotic energy, and also know that I'm really fun and playful, and sometimes I can be like kind of scary, but I just know there's some good stuff on the other side and you'll get through it.
What a cute psilocybin. That is so cute.
That is one of the best psilocybin impersonations I've ever heard, I must say.
I have no idea why psilocybin talks like that
psilocybin.
To me. Most people, psilocybin's like, hello, I am so strong and powerful. Mine's like, hi, Amy. Now, April, you have to do a voice of yours.
Okay, mine would be like, Abril, your creativity is waiting. Come to me, but only take a small nibble. Because if you do big nibble, you in corner talking
now
to
he's
tree.
Israeli.
Yeah, that was my ex-husband.
She was married to an Israeli, by the way.
And then you'll be talking in corner to tree. So nibble, 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 and your creativity is waiting. That next sexy song you want to sing is waiting.
Ooh.
Oh.
Lenny Kravitz, I'm waiting for your celibacy to be over.
No shame, though, for Lenny.
No shame. Good for you, Lenny.
No
But
shame. Do your
let's
thing.
just hope that you're edging sometimes.
He's probably taking psilocybin every day. It's probably
It
microdose.
probably is.
Ooh,
Vegan
boy.
psilocybin.
It's vegan.
I am so glad I'm not celibate. I'll say that.
Me
So-
too. Jeez.
Oh, I
Yeah.
second that emotion.
Mm. thank you both so much. This has been wonderful. I know you're very busy. I deeply appreciate you taking out time for this conversation and sharing this with my audience. And thank you for the work that you continue to do. And I will continue to share your work and be a fan.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you,
for having us.
Eric. Yeah, rock
Absolutely.
on. And
Everyone go find us at Shameless Sex Podcast. Oh, sorry, shamelesssex.com and buy our book. It's awesome.
Yeah, or
think I will do that.
all social media at Shameless Sex Podcast.
Yeah.
So just go to shamelesssex.com. Come see us if you're in
Stalk us, but
Chicago,
consensual.
Portland, Seattle, because we're going live on tour.
Woohoo.
Awesome.
Live.
I'll post links to all your socials and all the stuff in the show notes. I'll be sure to share it all with folks at the start of the episode. Thanks again, and I look forward to following your work.